In our lives, emotional suffering is something quite normal, on the order of the day. But does it have to be that way? It turns out that it doesn't. All of our emotional suffering has its origin in our heads, and to be more exact, in our attitude. The point is that we often try to influence on things that are totally out of our control, and we get mad when life shows us that we have no say here. The Stoics noted that there are things that are in our control, also there are things that are partially in our control, and finally there are things that are not in our control. So they divided everything that happens into 3 levels. First one, the high influence level. These are things over which we have complete influence. This includes our decisions, behavior and thoughts. It might seem that we don't always have control over what pops up in our head, what we think about, but in reality, with the proper training we are able to control our thoughts. Number 2, the level of partial influence. These are things over which we have only partial influence. Sometimes with our behavior we can change something, but sometimes even despite our great efforts, we are unable to influence something. These things include, for example, our relationships, wealth and health. We can, for example, try as hard as it is possible to maintain a relationship with another person, but if the other person doesn't want the relationship, it will disappear. We are unable to maintain it. Same is with our health. When we are sick, we can of course take some medicine, drink warm tea and lay in bed, but we cannot fully decide if we will recover. Our body needs time and thankfully maybe it will be able to recover. And finally, we have the level of zero influence. These are things over which we have no influence. This includes, for example, weather or the price of Bitcoin. As a Stoic, you should stop caring about things that are beyond your control. Don't worry about the fact that today's weather is bad. You have no control over that. Also, if you wanted to maintain your relationship with someone and you think you gave 100% from you, and yet the relationship fell apart, don't worry about it so much, because you did everything what you could. It was beyond your control. What happens to us is not important. It doesn't interest us. But what should interest you is the way you react to it. That's because the way how you react to a given situation is totally up to you. After losing a job, you can despair and consider yourself as a failure, and this will cause emotional suffering. But you can also pick yourself up and find another job. Or imagine an archer. An archer perfectly shows you how you can stop worrying about things that you have no influence on. And by doing so, you can get rid of your emotional suffering. So imagine this archer. The archer wants to hit the 10. So he draws his bow, he aims, he focuses, and he shoots. And as soon as he shoots, he cannot control the arrow anymore. It is totally not up to him. He did everything he could, he focused as hard as he could. Now, however, he has no control over the shot. If the wind suddenly breaks and the arrow suddenly changes its track, or the bird flies straight under the shot, it will not be up to the archer. He did everything he could, what he had control over. The rest doesn't interest him. One lesson flows from this video. Don't pay exaggerated attention to things that are beyond your control, because that's what causes your emotional suffering. Instead, pay attention only to things that are within your control.